The observatory dome, he swore, was in maintenance. The calendar square popped into our evening at 6:08 p.m., neat as a lab coat. Donor reception, University Observatory, late. 2 minutes later, Ezra texted, "Don't wait up. Faculty want a quick calibration demo after. Proud of me." Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence would rather not be peer-reviewed. I turned the flame under the curry to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked uphill toward the university ridge. The observatory's white dome sat on the skyline like an expensive eyelid. The square on my phone pulsed once and then pretended to be obedient. I rinsed a clean spoon, because on some nights the only honest verb available is unnecessary. At 6:33 my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and a message that recognized me anyway. If faculty are in the lecture hall, why did he badge the service stair for the dome? Side door by the loading bay. Panel sticks, press, then pull. Signed with a single letter T, as if the alphabet had leaned against a door and promised to keep watch. Tomas runs nighttime facilities up on the ridge the way a good drummer runs a band, precise, invisible, essential. He and Ezra trade competence when donors confuse stargazing with worship. Tomas and I have shared 2 cigarettes by a vending machine that insists on speaking in LEDs and a laugh that made the sky feel briefly hired. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than some men remember birthdays. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my access logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up at that stair when they want oxygen. Because the dome is in maintenance like a tux is temporary. The side door by the loading bay sulked under a light that had learned to be modest. I pressed, then pulled, and the panel remembered what work is. Inside, the service stair spiraled up through concrete cool as a withheld opinion. On the landing, a sign read "calibration in progress" in a font that had never met a lie it didn't envy. The door into the drum of the dome gave under my palm like a rumor deciding to be useful. The telescope room breathed a careful dusk. The slit in the dome was shut, a pale scar waiting for weather to consent. Motors slept like well-paid guards. Ezra stood near the control console with his jacket off and his shirt open, one button past credible. Opposite him, 2 fingers resting on the edge of the console in a way that suggested ownership without paperwork, was Lionel Sharp, philanthropist, board vice chair, a rumor with cufflinks that remembered their own names. Lionel's hand hovered near Ezra's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when you're buying the night and selling virtue. "Maintenance looks generous," I said from the threshold, voice steady out of habit, not faith. Ezra turned. For a beat the truth borrowed his face. Then the version of him that committees adore woke up and arranged itself. "Micah," he said, "I how did." "Tomas likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Lionel's smile wore benevolence like a cologne he'd actually paid for. "We were discussing optics," he said. "Donors enjoy being persuaded the universe appreciates their attention." "I prefer attention that can find the exit," I said. Ezra took a step toward me and let the floor take back the second. "We were reviewing next month's gala," he said. He wanted to see the dome from the inside. "Inside is flattering," Lionel said. He lifted his palms as if holding time. 2 minutes. The stars will wait, I won't." He drifted toward the shutter track where the metal seemed through an expensive shadow. In passing, 2 fingers touched Ezra's shoulder, punctuation without weight. The dome accepted the contact and pretended to be a sky. Ezra watched me in that particular way men watch a door they hope counts as a life raft. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, in the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. After, I wanted to know I could leave this room without being edited. You wanted to be caught, I said, not punished, caught. He let out one breath, which in this place counted as a confession. Yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns from service. I crossed the tile and put my mouth on his because steel deserves honesty sometimes. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been performing restraint for people who invoice it. He tasted like donor gin and cold metal. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and laid itself flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that won't ask for a proclamation. We didn't undress. The dome charges extra and the night likes witnesses. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for a grant. He rested his forehead against mine. The motor housings listened politely. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to. I texted Tomas instead. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. From the slit's shadow, Lionel tilted his head with the economy of a man who knows where the light comes from and expects it to continue. He didn't move closer. Down the hill, the city stirred its jewelry and pretended to be a sky. Come home, Ezra said. After I thanked the drummer, I said. Tomas waited at the service stair, hands in pockets, key ring quiet. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Custodial sweep hits your hallway in 90 seconds, he said. If you don't want to explain yourselves to a mop, use the west stair and keep your heads down. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. We took the west stair because elevators gossip. Outside, the ridge wind practiced indifference. We walked home along the botanical path that pretends to know our names. In the kitchen, the curry forgave me for flirting with cold. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Lionel had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for 6 weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness has emptied your pockets. I told him Tomas had texted because some men choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Tomas and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't describe the exact way the vending machine light makes Tomas's mouth look like a better answer than either of us can afford. Later in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already spent too much of our restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I have come to trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw loses confidence and told it a morning. It was heat without theater. The building minded its radiators. The ridge wind rehearsed itself somewhere else. He fell asleep with his hand on my wrist, not as claim, not as proof, just counting the animal we've decided to keep. Morning behaved. Coffee arrived on schedule. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Ezra tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like a man who had already found the exit. He left to lecture a hall full of donors about infinity. At 9:11 a text arrived from a number saved under one letter. No dome cam saw anything but shutters. I looped a maintenance clip of the gear train for 20. Consider it calibration. I sent back, you're very proud of your calibration. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a campus blog posted a photo of Lionel against the dome, captioned with a paragraph about stewardship and wonder. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:24, Ezra sent me a picture of our kitchen table with the plant we keep refusing to let die basking in a rectangle of honest sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week behaved as well as it knows how. Lionel emailed a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Ezra forwarded it to legal like a man who has learned that commas are the only things that survive meetings. We cooked badly and forgave salt. The plant pushed a new leaf the color of optimism that hasn't yet been invoiced. 2 nights later, the observatory hosted open hours, honest tickets, real families, children weaponizing questions. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Tomas nodded once from the staff door like an usher who had chosen a side. Lionel shook Ezra's hand with sincere efficiency while a photographer made the dome obey. A reporter asked about legacy. Ezra pointed at a child pressing her nose to the eyepiece and said, "If we do this right, she won't remember our names." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the walk home, we cut along the crest where the city pretends to be obedient to the horizon. Ezra slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the wind decided not to interfere. We cooked a decent dinner and left the dishes for a future that kept its promises. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still of 2 silhouettes inside a moonlit arc, one with a hand too near to be polite. The caption invented an academic romance. The comments rented outrage by the hour. I put my phone down next to the plant and watched the plant win. Ezra texted me a different image. The slit opened to a pale afternoon sky, Tomas showing a student worker where the limits switch lives. Our version tracks the sky, he wrote. On Sunday, Tomas texted, "Dome's quiet. Want to sit where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He propped the slit a breath and let day spill in like a rumor that had decided to be useful. He showed us the declination axis, the worm gear, the place where metal complains when humidity forgets its manners. He did not flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think infinity is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he was. The following week, the university staged a ribbon cutting for the new outreach program. Ezra spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and maintenance, the only kind of speech that ages correctly. Lionel promised to help the public meet the universe on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still make noise. After, he shook Ezra's hand and then looked at me with the respectful caution of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because he had to. A columnist with a talent for adjectives implied Ezra's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of the dome that could have been any dome and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did what comments do, invented receipts, distributed guilt, monetized breath. I took the plant to the sink and let water find every root like an apology we could afford. That night we skipped the fundraiser and walked the Ridge Trail instead. The city tested its lights. The dome did not pretend to be a star. Ezra didn't say anything important. He slid his hand into mine like a man who knows where gravity is gentle and where it has decided to make a point. Back home, the pasta forgave us. The kettle practiced purpose. At the bedroom door, we did not audition a performance. He kissed me with the steadiness that once convinced me to learn the names of gears. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning we could live in. It was heat, without witnesses. The neighborhood mindfully ignored us. It keeps not being simple. Lionel keeps sending commas that want homes. Ezra keeps returning them with better ones. Tomas keeps opening the correct door and refusing credit. The plant keeps turning light into arrogance. We keep our calendar squares blank on purpose because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, on the way down from the ridge, Ezra takes my wrist lightly and says nothing, which is how I know he's remembering the dome and the 2 minutes that were enough. Sometimes I think about Lionel paused in the shadow of the slit like a man who wants to buy a sky and discovering it does not invoice. Sometimes I think about Tomas's line, "I opened a door," and how it is the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. The university can keep its speeches. The stars will manage without us. We have the West Stare, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the photo, not in the rumor, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the night can rehearse wonder. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like hours, and calling that time.